Hey everybody, Stinger here. I want to invite you to a pretty cool podcast.
Watch this film. It'll be quite nice. Have a good time. It'll be very evil. And you'll love that Danhausen.
Hey, this is Big Sexy Kevin Nash.
Yes, it is I, Big E, but more importantly, it is you.
And you might remember me from such YouTube greats as Being the Elite and Chris Daniels Almost Dies.
And if you're looking for the very best wrestling content, you better come to Good Mic Work Commentary.
And I'm just going to tell you now, as a role model, you got to tune into this because if you also want to be a role model, you got to learn from the best.
We have a rapport, and we have been so close over so many years. This is not a cameo or a paid endorsement in any regard. This is a message of friendship.
Man, we met 20 years ago, 21 years ago now. Time is flying, isn't it?
I want to wish you all the best in your YouTube channel, and hopefully I can maybe make a special guest appearance on there sometime.
And I used to say, hey, Greg Morgan, and he used to say, please call me Greg, and I wouldn't do it.
Good Mic Work Commentaries.
Awesome YouTube channel. Now, if you've seen these videos before, you know what I'm talking about.
We would do verbal chain wrestling. You know, we'd be off in the yard, the schoolyard at recess.
And he's also a 40-year-old wrestling fan. That's a long damn time.
And we'd just be staring at each other, and he'd say, hammerlock. And I'd say, all right, I've reversed the hammerlock into a hammerlock of my own, then I put you in a headlock. And, you know, that would go on for hours.
He's not going to fill your head with bullshit. He's going to tell you real deal, what's up, and that's that.
Raw, SmackDown, NXT. This guy covers it all, my friends. I want you to go to his page, Good Mic Work on YouTube.
Check out Good Mic Work Commentaries on YouTube.
But we would have fun. We would run around. There would be a wooden hoop we would hit with a stick, and it would go down a hill.
I'm about to go and watch a few videos myself.
It's a very practical apparatus.
We're really lacking in the world right now with some people that have a freaking brain cells.
And now look at him. He has more YouTube views and subscribers than I do, and I'm fine with it because I played such an integral role in his upbringing.
Don't you dare be sour.
We always talked about wrestling. He was a big Lou Thez guy, and of course I had an affectation for the Hackenschmidts.
Clap for Good Mic Work Commentaries.
This is RJ City, a wrestling rock on tour.
And feel the power.
Listen to the podcast, subscribe.
You are watching Good Mic Work Commentaries.
Good Mic Work Commentaries.
Good Mic Work Commentaries.
Good Mic Work Commentaries.
Just want to encourage all you guys to check out Good Mic Work Commentaries.
And if you don't, we're going to have a problem.
Do it!
Do it.
Do it now!
Thanks a lot for the encomium and the nice words about my father's Hall of Fame induction.
Hope our paths cross again sometime down the road. Would love to shake your hand again, and good luck on this podcast.
And you don't just watch it one time. You can rewatch every single one of them.
And now, Good Mic Work Commentaries and Greg Morgan presents the Winged Eagle Podcast.
Happy Saturday. What's going on, guys? Welcome back to your Winged Eagle podcast for May 13th, 2023. We got a big episode this week. There's a lot going on across all of the wrestling shows and results. A lot of news going on right now across AEW and WWE, and both of them have a couple of big pay-per-views coming up at the end of the month, which we're going to preview. CM Punk is all but set to make his return next month, which means we're down to our final month of this nonsense of having CM Punk dominate the headlines and the thumbnails of this podcast for the past year. We are finally reaching the conclusion to that. He's set to come back on June 17th in the United Center. This has not been announced yet, but probably will be announced this coming Wednesday on Dynamite from the very mouth of Tony Khan himself. There's a lot of talk about AEW's new TV deal and some rumored dollar figures involved there. Well, a lot of this stuff we're probably going to learn next week when the networks release their upfronts. And it's all good news on AEW side of things, despite the massive amount of turmoil that still seems to be existing inside of that company right now. WWE's also got a lot of news going on. Raw and SmackDown this week both had their respective tournaments to select their finalists for the World Heavyweight Championship tournament. Seth Rollins and AJ Styles, it will be. Didn't really have that one on my radar. Seth's been on my radar the whole time. AJ has not been. And a lot of chatter that AJ Styles might actually be the guy, not Seth, to be the first ever World Heavyweight Champion. I've got plenty of opinions on that. And also on last night's SmackDown, big news coming out of the Bloodline. Roman Reigns and Solo Sikoa are actually going to challenge Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn for the tag team championships at Night of Champions in a move that I really like. And I'm going to explain why I like this later on. A lot of confusion from fans who should be smarter than this last night online. Why is Roman Reigns not defending the belt? And what the fuck? There's a real simple answer to all of this, and I'll explain that later. But Night of Champions is looking pretty good, and I'm excited to see who actually is going to win this new World Heavyweight title. And I like that things aren't completely predictable. And I like what they did with the Bloodline last night. I liked what they did with Asuka last night, even though there wasn't much to it other than her coming out and spitting in Bianca's face. There was a lot of things going on Raw, SmackDown, and Dynamite this week that I liked a lot, and it was not the worst week in the world to be a wrestling fan, that's for sure. So we're going to talk about Dynamite. We're going to talk about last night's SmackDown. We'll touch a little bit on Raw, but not much because I was up here on Monday doing a review for that. And we will do a preview of Night of Champions and Double or Nothing and see if we can predict or figure out what direction AEW and WWE might be going in. And we are about to enter into a pretty exciting summer. If you look on AEW's side of things, they're about to launch a Saturday show. CM Punk, Miro, Thunder Rosa, a lot of new talent coming back into AEW. Then you got Forbidden Door. Then on WWE's side of things, you got Money in the Bank in London, followed by All In August in London. We got SummerSlam. It is going to be a crazy summer, a fun summer, and I'm stoked for it. So now we are on the home stretch here. Get through May once AEW's new TV deal starts and we get the Saudi show out of our way. We are smooth sailing to All In and SummerSlam, and it's going to be a blast. So it's going to be a pretty casual discussion today, discussing some of the deals and rumors about AEW's new TV deal, CM Punk, how that's all going to work out with him coming back and his relationship with the Elite that is still apparently not resolved yet. And now Punk is about to enter these doors again with some turmoil still there and a lot of, kind of confusing information about this in terms of them not being allowed to talk to each other. Well, what the fuck happens when they all show up to work at the same place next month? They're going to have to, right? So there's some of this stuff that is still very head scratching, still some of it that's a tad frustrating, but from where we sit, it does look like AEW is moving forward. CM Punk is going to come back. And, at the end of the day, that is a good thing. Had that nonsense never happened last year at All Out, we'd all be very happy that CM Punk was back in wrestling. But once that happened, that seemed to divide not only the roster, but the wrestling fans. And regardless of where you sit on the CM Punk side of things, 9 times out of 10, 99 times out of 100, 999 times out of 1,000, wrestling fans are going to speculate and make their assumptions based on who they like, period. But with me, I got no dog in the CM Punk or Elite fight, and I've always felt that CM Punk was a jackass for doing what he did. But I also know that throughout the history of wrestling, a lot of messed up things have happened, and fences were able to be mended. So I think if Sean and Brett and a lot of other gnarly situations were able to come back together and work together, Matt Hardy and Edge, for fuck's sake. If those guys can work a program together, I think that CM Punk and the Elite can too. And we'll kind of discuss that as we go through here. But like I said, going to be a pretty chill podcast today, probably a couple of hours long because I have got to get off to work, and it's going to be a very busy weekend for old Greg. And we got a big one planned for tomorrow. So even though I'm very busy in my personal life, that ain't stopping me from hammering out a bunch of content to you guys this weekend. Tomorrow, we have our WWE In Your House doubleheader. That's right, a doubleheader. Tomorrow's Mother's Day, as we all know, and that's going to make life very busy for me. I'm going to be at work pretty much all day, and I was worried about being home in time to do our classic pay-per-view watch-along that we do every Sunday night. I was worried I'd be home in time to do that. So what I decided, just to avoid any potential scheduling conflicts, is I know I'll be home later in the afternoon. I just wasn't sure 5 o'clock start time for me here on the West Coast, if that was going to give me enough time. So instead of doing a full-blown 3-hour pay-per-view watch-along tomorrow night, here's what we're going to do instead. Tomorrow morning at noon Eastern time, I'm going to release a review. I've already recorded it, edited it last night. I got a few more bells and whistles to put on it tonight, but that's going to be uploaded tomorrow at noon Eastern. My review of WWF In Your House #1. Tomorrow is the 28-year anniversary of that show. It also aired on May 14th, also on Mother's Day. So what better review to do if I'm going to resurrect pay-per-view reviews than that one, right? And then tomorrow night, 1 hour later than normal. Normally we're up here at 8 Eastern, 5 Pacific for our watch-alongs. I need to give myself an extra hour. So we're going to bump up the start time 1 hour later to 9 Eastern, 6 o'clock Pacific. And since it's going to be a later start time, we're going to scale back the length of the watch along. So we're going to watch In Your House #2, which is less than 2 hours long. So that won't put our finish time any later than normal on Sunday nights, because I know a lot of you who work on the East Coast or maybe somewhere else in the country have to get up on Monday morning and work. It's tough for you to stay up late. West Coast time kind of sucks for everybody else. I have to do everything pretty late because I'm 3 hours behind the East Coast. But that's what's going to be taking place tomorrow. In Your House doubleheader, review in the morning, and then watch along tomorrow evening. The link to the watch along is up now, but I don't have a link to the review yet because I'm just going to release that. I'm not going to premiere it or anything like that. I'm just going to drop it right at noon Eastern, 9 a.m. my time, right before I head off to work and deal with a whole bunch of crazy people for lovely Mother's Day brunch. I do about 2 brunches a year, and this is one of them. This one in Easter, I kind of go in and get my hands dirty and help out the team a little bit, and it is going to be crazy, and I'm going to be tired, but I'll be ready for some 1995 wrestling and a nice frosty brew tomorrow night with you guys. So make sure you're here, stay tuned, and I hope you can join me tomorrow. In the meantime, you know what to do. Please hit this video with a thumbs up. Please give it a like. That really helps. If you're not subscribed, please do so. Memberships are open. Link is down there in the description to join Patreon content. A lot of new stuff coming to the channel pretty soon. And the plan is for 1 week from tomorrow, it's going to be another doubleheader. So 1 week from tomorrow, we're going to do 2 watch-alongs. During the day, it's going to be a members-only watch-along with me and Elizabeth watching a classic Monday Night Raw from 1994. And then later that night, I still have to decide what we're going to do. I'm probably going to let the channel members decide that as well by putting up a poll over on the YouTube. So that's just what's going on here in the next week. Keep a lookout on the channel for all of the content coming to you. I don't think I'm going to be here Monday night for a Raw review. I don't think anything too crazy is going to happen on Raw, although we do have a few matches listed. Unless something crazy happens, plan for me to not be here on Monday because I'm still working on other content up on the channel, shorter videos, things like that. Doing a ton of stuff right now behind the scenes. That's all I can tell you. It's nuts. But anyway, that pretty much knocks out the pleasantries and our schedule for this weekend and upcoming week. Let me cruise over here to the chat real quick, say hello to everybody, do a quick shout out to the Patreon members, and then we will get cooking here with our AEW news and their TV deal that apparently will be announced very, very soon in the upcoming days. Good to see Steven Taylor and Zane G, Tatanani, the Juliet. We have Lee T is in the house. We have Chaz Medeiros and Jimmy Anderson. What's up, brother? Member for 8 months. Kayfabe, brother. What's going on? Good to see you. Tatanani, MH Nova, Isaac, Jay Lambo, and who else? Ian Dunn, rounding out some of the channel members. Also, Luke McAllister chiming in with a very generous $10 drop. Appreciate that, my friend. Hey, Greg, can't wait for the summer. Going to SmackDown, Money in the Bank, and All In. Hopefully the UK gets a WrestleMania one of these days. The energy would be huge, and it looks like All In will be special. I think the WWE is going to have an eye on that All In show as well, because if that proves to be a major success, which many believe it will be, I believe they have that building sectioned out now for about 75,000 fans, which is incredible. And WWE is going to take notice of that, because if you're WWE, you got to be sitting there looking at what they're doing, saying, well, if they can pull 70,000, we can easily pull 100, you know? So I think that this is where the UK with Money in the Bank and All In can really prove that what we've known all along, and that is regular pay-per-views should be on the schedule over there, because anytime you go to a place that's not frequented by the WWE often, especially for pay-per-views like we saw in Puerto Rico for Backlash, you know, the crowds can be really, really jacked, and UK has always come through. I think Money in the Bank, even though it's a much smaller venue, is going to be crazy exciting at the O2, and then All In is going to be nuts. So hell yeah, man, I'm looking forward to it. I'm glad that you're going to Money in the Bank and All In and that SmackDown, that's before Money in the Bank as well. I just booked some tickets myself. Unfortunately, not going to be able to make Double or Nothing this year in Las Vegas. I just need to not go to that. Too much going on. I've got a trip back east I've got planned in June, and I just needed to eliminate something, plus a lot going on here with work and personal life. Just decided to not make the trip to Vegas. Unfortunately, we had to make that decision. But the Dynamite after Double or Nothing is here in San Diego, and I picked up great seats for that. I wanted to get front row. I wanted to get ringside seats. Couldn't find any available, but I got row 2. So the hard cam is going to be facing me, and I'm going to be in the second row with the hard cam basically looking right at me. The Dynamite after Double or Nothing right here in San Diego. Interesting tidbit about that Dynamite in San Diego. All In is spitting out record ticket sales for AEW, and they're going to blow away a lot of attendance records with this show. That will not be the case here in San Diego. We are just not a good market. I think the city is too nice. It's too beautiful. There's too much shit to do for people to go to wrestling shows and other things here. It's really weird. I think that's why we're down to only one professional team, because our stadium is outdoors and it's beautiful at Petco Park, and the Padres are awesome, but it's not really a good market for whatever reason. I don't understand it. San Diego is the most beautiful fucking city in this country, and I don't understand why nobody goes to events here. The ticket sales for Dynamite at here in San Diego that I'm talking about are super cheap. They have half of the building, according to the seating chart on Ticketmaster and StubHub. They have half of the building tarped off. It looks like it's going to be more of like a stage setup where all the fans are going to be on one side, and the ringside seats in the ringside area were not even that crazy. Normally a front row seat will run you a couple of grand. We got our row 2 seats for just over $200, and that's amazingly cheap for that type of seating. And I think it's because this is just not a great market. So I'm worried that I'm sure Dynamite will still have a good turnout. It's after a pay-per-view. It's going to have some eyeballs on it. But I think if this Dynamite does not, because this is not a big arena, this Viejas Arena. It's where I got my COVID vaccine, actually. And it's not a huge place. So packing it out shouldn't be that difficult. And the fact that only half of this building has open tickets for sale is a little weird. So I think that's why I was able to get those very cheap row 2 seats. So keep a lookout for me. The Dynamite after Double or Nothing, I'll be there front and center on that Wednesday night. So I wish we were as lucky as you, Luke, with all these crazy shows on the horizon. But man, the ticket sales are hurting a little bit here in San Diego. Also want to say hello to Mark Galan. Thank you so much. Or Gallon, not sure how I pronounce that. Appreciate that 5 from you. Thoughts on AEW Dark being canceled? Personally, I enjoyed the idea of unknown talent showcasing for an audience and lower careers having a chance. I did too. But as AEW grows, that type of thing was probably going to evaporate over time. I mean, AEW, when they first started, they were very much into giving independent wrestlers a chance because they were still growing. They were still new. Remember Cody Rhodes working with Warhorse and some of the other people they brought in to work Dynamite from time to time, and the Dark and Elevation were really good platforms and places for these talents to get some mainstream work, even if it was on YouTube, working for an actual wrestling company, in an environment like that was doing nothing but good for their careers. But as AEW grows and becomes bigger, a lot of times there isn't a lot of room for that type of stuff. So what I'm hoping is that Dark and Elevation, what they were doing there with certain independent talent, can just be done now at Ring of Honor, which they also own. So I don't think it's the end of the world for Dark and Elevation, because I don't think it's going to completely eliminate opportunities for independent wrestlers, but it probably is going to decrease them a little bit. And like I said, anything they do can just be done over on Ring of Honor now, with Warner Brothers Discovery wanting to handle all of AEW's content, with them having a new show starting up next month, apparently, that big June 17th. I believe it's the show on June 17th, right? That is at the United Center. That's rumored to be that new Saturday show. So as they grow, things are going to change in the company, and I think that's just one of the casualties. But with Tony Khan purchasing Ring of Honor, I think that can, a lot like WWE uses NXT, can be used for your development, giving people opportunities, having indie guys work spots, short-term contracts, seeing who works out and get them signed, brought over to AEW. I still think they're trying to figure out their format, their formula, because this is still, at the end of the day, a company that's only 4 years old, and they've already acquired another wrestling company on top of that. Now they've acquired another 2-hour TV show. They're doing a lot of big boy things for a company that's still a toddler, And you got to just hope that it all goes well for them. And I think it will. I think the Saturday show, a lot of people are worried that, well, shit, Rampage sucked. I don't know if the Saturday show is going to be any better. I think it is going to be a good thing because we have seen a lot of talent not being showcased, TV time issues, stuff like that. And maybe the Saturday show will help rectify that. I think it will, because Rampage just doesn't really count. If they can actually make the Saturday show as important as Dynamite, then AEW could be in business. But Dark and Elevation being canceled, that's kind of just the way it goes. Everybody else that's been chiming in to say hello, welcome. I'm glad you're here. Thank you for being here. Let me do a quick shout out to our friends over on the Patreon page. I want to thank CTFB, Kenny Ward, Anthony Del Preta, Paul Carpenter, William, Joseph Hudson, Chris Broski, Divine Ricks, Ryan, Nikita Abalakin, Chris Miner, Super Fluffy Toaster, Alan Carter, Brandon Yelverton, Nick Musser, K-Dog's Kennel, Ryan Y, John Redifer, Claudio Klabadetcher, Daniel Rodriguez, Reese Jones, Michael Cuomo, Naveed, and Blake Moran. Thanks for everything, guys. There is a ton of content in the queue for Patreon. It's just a matter of when Greg can edit this shit, but I've got it all lined up, and I can pump out content to Patreon as soon as I find the time to do that. So please stay tuned, and thank you so much for your patience. Also, we have some awesome channel members on this channel. I really appreciate all you guys. I want to thank Ian and Stone Cold and MJ Parker and Jennifer and MH Nova and Colton and Lee, Alex Bryant, Elizabeth, Jay Lambo, James Williams, Leo, Super Fluffy Toaster, Chaz Medeiros, Sam Boone, Chris Ludek, Stephen Taylor, Anthony Matisse, Deshaun Robinson, Motown Slim, Brandon, Ramon Coffee, Big Mike ATP, Mike, Ken Webb, Titanium Titan, Josiah Blevins, Kevin, Ruben Linton, Foxstar Killer, Alex, The Juliet, Bitso, Alan Carter, Zach Palgett, Dre, Sean 2018, Jordan Carg, Financial Truth Academy, Devlin Husband, Michael Tong, Longboard, Ian, Jeff McMahon, Mikey Too Cool, Tara Brehan, Luke McAllister, Zelius Ward, William, Bo Klavlovic, Al Ramos Pro, Zach H., Robbie, Chris Miner, Mike Witt, Mike, just another Mike, Jimmy Anderson, C-Mac, Mab, Joshua Aparicio, How, Wheezy, Spaz Phoenix, my boy, Ronnie, Nicole Lensing, Marcus the Entertainer, Nikita Abalakin, Divine Ricks, Zane G., Chris Barrera, Michael Kumo, John J.E. Dennett, Jose, Tatanani, Nick Musser, K-Dogs, Kennel, Max Pokebrush, Spectra, Reese Jones, Victor Cologne, Isaac, George Morris, Population 420, and the OG, JJ Leg. Thank you so much, guys, for all of your support. We are coming up on 1 year since we started these memberships, and I appreciate you guys just being here along for the ride and helping support the channel. Couldn't do it without you, literally. And next week's going to be a fun one, members only. Me and Elizabeth watching the Monday Night Raw. I'm not sure the date on it, but the Raw we're going to watch is the one with the Bret Hart and 1-2-3 Kid match. So I think that's like June or July of 1994. And it's going to be a quick one, just an hour long. She'll sit right here with me, and we'll watch and react. And if you guys like that, that will be a monthly thing here for the members, me and Elizabeth. So keep that in mind if you guys are a member, and you'll be joining us next week for that. I think that is pretty much it for all the BS. 23 minutes after we started this podcast, it's about time that we start talking about the wrestling news. And let's just start again, as we've been doing every Wing to Go podcast, it seems like, for the entire year. We have to start out with AEW and all of the turmoil and drama currently going on there right now. Now, AEW and Tony Khan, I feel like, is doing their best to manage the situation as best they can. There's a lot of it that we hear as fans that doesn't make sense regarding CM Punk and the Elite, but we'll find out when Punk comes back if maybe there was a method to all of that madness. But based on some of the things we've been hearing, it's sometimes you're like, what? That doesn't make any sense. But we're also not there, so we don't know for sure. The big news, though, regarding AEW is this rumored TV deal that reportedly has been signed between them and Warner Brothers Discovery. We knew of the Saturday show that was going to be airing. None of this has been officially announced yet, although Tony Khan was on Dynamite this past week with an announcement about an announcement, is pretty much what it was. And he said that next week he's got an announcement that's going to be one of the biggest in AEW history. And you know they have a show on the calendar on that Saturday in June for the United Center. That's not just going to be a Saturday Dynamite or a house event or a live event, excuse me. You know that's going to be that Saturday show. You know that's where CM Punk's going to be coming back. So I think that next week will finally be the official announcement of that. Right now, it's just rumors. It's just hearsay. There's no confirmation whatsoever, but rumors suggest that this deal could be for several years worth in the neighborhood of $1 billion. And that is a massively good deal for AEW. This is nothing but good news, which is what I've been saying all along about AEW. You know, they're going to keep getting TV deals. I know the ratings, the way they compare to the Attitude Era, don't look the same, but a lot of shit is different from the Attitude Era. And it doesn't matter what the fans think. It's about what the networks think. And the network that AEW airs on has been happy with them. They have increased their programming. They've wanted to do more with them, with the Rampage, then All Access, now this Saturday show. There's been rumors that possibly they could be streaming on Max when that entire deal is finalized, and that would be fantastic if they could run pay-per-views or select events there, or give you a back catalog over the pay-per-views and things like that. Would be great for AEW, and I hope all of that is in their future, because the more deals like this they secure and acquire, the more they're digging their heels in, you know, and there's really no danger of them ever going anywhere. To the fans that, you know, think that, oh, the ratings are tanking and they're losing everybody and they're going to get canceled, you just don't fucking pay attention, because you base your assumptions on who you like and don't like. And that's why tribalism is a fucking disease in this wrestling community. And it's stupid. This is great news for wrestling fans, you know, to be on a tribal side of this and actually be upset about this. All you're doing is being upset that the wrestling landscape is going to be better for you. That's ridiculous to even be upset about that. This is good. It's great for fans. Gives us more content, more options. When you start getting sick of one, you got the other one. I don't understand how fans who went through the last 20 years of basically WWE's monopoly, yeah, we had TNA. They were there, you know, to keep our heads above water and stop us from drowning, but not really. They had a lot of problems as well. AEW has been the first company that's been securely on cable TV for many years, you know, and TNA was never able to accomplish that. So this is good news for us, and it's even better news for wrestlers, because now there's jobs for everyone. The wrestling pool, the wrestlers in the world that are the people who are in the world who are pro wrestlers, I should say, has grown. Now we see all different shapes and sizes and genders and all of that stuff, where back in the day it was kind of like land of the giants. So there's more workers out there that need to get paid, that need to find work, and like they say, the cream always rises to the top. And when you have a bigger pool, that's just going to, you know, mean that you're going to have better people at the top, more athletic people at the top. And we're seeing that now with the freaks of nature that this company, or the world has in pro wrestling, with the Carmelo Hayeses and the Ray Phoenixes and the Dante Martins and, you know, the Kenny Omegas and the AJs and the Seths, I mean, and the Montez Fords. I mean, it's crazy out there. So this is only good news for pro wrestling in general. You want multiple companies. You just don't want one with a monopoly, because it just gets really ridiculous, redundant, and old. So having alternatives, having other options out there for fans is good. Having other places to work for wrestlers is good. There's nothing about this at all that is bad. If you find it bad, you've got a serious internal issue, and you're just a deeply miserable person. And I don't know how to correct that. That's your own deal. That's your own life to figure out. But in terms of this deal, I think it's great news. I can't wait to hear the details on it, how close we are to these numbers. You know, if it's going to be $1 billion deal, you would assume it's for 5 years, but again, nothing has been confirmed. Maybe Tony Khan will make that announcement on Dynamite. His announcement next week will probably be more pertaining to the actual show, AEW Collision, and possibly CM Punk's return. I think a lot of these dollar figures will probably be revealed at the Warner Brothers upfronts, I believe, on May 17th, which is also, is that right? May 17th, right? That's this coming Wednesday. Yes. So that's when the upfronts are, and that's when Tony Khan will probably make the Saturday show announcement on TV, which is why he's waiting until next week to do it, and he didn't just do it on Dynamite when he was on camera. CM Punk's return also going to tie into this, and you have to wonder if Tony Khan is going to pre-announce this time, CM Punk's return. It all depends on how they want to handle this. I have no idea. There has been talk that the new Saturday show, which is going to be titled Collision, this is according to The Observer and Dave Meltzer, there's going to be a tagline to that show on June 17th titled The Second Coming. Again, no confirmation. This is what Meltzer thinks. And they're going to be titling the show The Second Coming. That could be perceived a couple of ways. I mean, if CM Punk is going to come back with a God complex, he could come back as a huge heel. And I've been wondering how they were going to do CM Punk's return when he did come back. Part of me thinks it would be better for him to be a heel than to try to be a baby face, and go the sympathetic route, knowing everything that's happened with him and the turmoil behind the scenes over the past year. And plus maybe some fans not appreciating what he did. I still think fans are going to, Pavlov's dog, just going to cheer anyway when he comes out. Maybe if he's going to make his return in the United Center, then he has to come back as a babyface, but maybe the heel turn comes the following week on TV when he's out of Chicago, unless they really wanted to get nuts and actually go heel in Chicago. I just think that with his return back in 2021 and the packed house and the crying fans and the emotion and everything surrounding that, even given what's happened, I can't foresee or envision a scenario where Punk is booed by that audience. Can you? But it would be fun to see him try. It would be fun to see him try, to come out there and then soak in the boos. And then he's really got to choose his promo well if he wants these people to boo him. I think even if he tries to be a heel, they might just cheer just anyway because they're like, you're trying to be a heel, you silly guy. He's got to get personal with them. He's got to, insult them deeply somehow. I was here in Chicago for this past year and I got no respect, no love, no support from any of you. I don't know what he could say, but somehow turn it around on them and attempt to go heel in the United Center in front of that crowd after a year off. That would be a tall order. That would be a tall order. If anybody could pull it off with his words, CM Punk could, but you got to wonder in the environment that they're in, what Punk's return is going to be. The Second Coming sounds like either number one, it's just going to be, a way for him to soak in the attention and become a heel, or, it's just another endorsement of Tony Khan, who really views this guy as the savior of his company, referring to him as such prior to all the bad stuff going down, in the press conferences and the scrums, and Tony Khan just singing the praises of CM Punk and how vital and important he was to the success of AEW. And we all thought that was a little weird at the time for him, being that over the top about it. But this Second Coming tagline kind of reinforces that Tony Khan really just might have his head directly all the way up CM Punk's ass. And that's perfectly fine as long as it makes for good TV. I don't give a shit. So the Second Coming tagline is interesting because I think it could mean a lot of different things, or it could just be the second coming of Punk. Maybe they're not trying to make it anything more than that because this will be the second time he's returned to the company in this building. You know what I mean? So I think that when he returns, it will be interesting to see who he works with and if he's going to be a babyface or a heel. And if he is going to show up on this Saturday show like we expect him to, what's he going to do? Is he going to come out and try to recreate what he did a couple of years ago and sit in the ring and bask in the glory and then get on the mic and talk about what his goals are? Or do they not do this time and he's just immediately interrupted by somebody? That's what I would do. Who's going to interrupt him? Now, we've heard reports that Chris Jericho and CM Punk have met. Chris Jericho has actually stepped up to the plate and said he'd be happy to work with CM Punk first, leading by example, trying to be the leader that he supposedly is behind the scenes, stepping up and said, I'll take one for the team. I'll do this. I'll hate every minute of it, but I'm going to show everybody else that, you can still work with somebody and be professional despite issues. Jericho, I thought, did the right thing by volunteering for that. We've now heard that this is reported by Fightful Select this week that CM Punk has been pitching to work with Samoa Joe out of the gate. And that would be fantastic because they have history dating back nearly 20 years now. Unfortunately, those matches won't be as good as they were 20 years ago, but maybe they will from a storyline telling perspective. They can probably match that with the drama and the emotion. Physically, what they were doing in those Ring of Honor matches back in 2005 isn't going to be anything like what we see, or whatever year that was, 04 maybe, when those matches were taking place, isn't going to be like what we're going to see in 2023, but I still think that the feud could be fun, and the promos leading up to that could be great. I think whatever match they have will be absolutely an absolute bloodbath, brutal brawl. The quadruple B, bloodbath, brutal brawl. I can't say that more than once. So if he worked with Samoa Joe, I'd be fine with that too. Now, Samoa Joe, I think right now is a babyface, but Samoa Joe, or is he a heel? I can't remember. But the good thing about Samoa Joe, he can turn on a dime. Doesn't matter what he is. If he's a heel, he can be a babyface pretty quick. And if he's a babyface, he can turn on you in the blink of an eye. So it doesn't even matter where Joe is on that side of things. I think if Joe came back as the aggressor, as the heel to CM Punk's babyface, that could be interesting, but it would be interesting the other way around as well. Just depends. Also, another person that could interrupt CM Punk, or maybe who CM Punk could interrupt, maybe it's not Punk having his own segment, maybe it's somebody in the ring, and that's when Punk makes his return. And maybe you put MJF on that show with the championship belt. What better person to interrupt him than CM Punk? The guy that was champion before he got injured and before he got suspended. Because it depends on how far they want to like lean into everything. Like, for example, hypothetically, if CM Punk comes back on the Saturday show and he's a heel, that kind of implies that they're going to be doing something with the Elite, doesn't it? If he comes back as a heel with no explanation, because last time we saw him, he was a babyface. And if he comes back as a heel, he's going to have to mention stuff like Scrumgate and everything I said about this company, I meant it, and I'm back here to take what's mine or whatever. If he comes back as a heel, it feels like that might be a guarantee that he's going to be working with the Elite, because I don't know how you bring him back as a heel and you don't address that elephant in the room. But if he comes back as a babyface and you want to ignore, like if this is really going to be a brand split like we're hearing, and there's going to be a Saturday crew and a Wednesday crew, and they might intermingle a little bit, but if they're going to use Punk primarily for Saturday, who knows? But if he's going to come back as a babyface and they want to ignore everything, then storyline-wise, CM Punk's very first target should be MJF, the man he feuded with and beat and lost to, but also the man that's carrying the belt that he probably rightfully believes is his because he never lost it. So if you're CM Punk and you want to come back from a kayfabe perspective, he should be going right for MJF and right for that title because he wore that on the night that he left the company. He was the champion. He never lost that championship. So you would even think, in theory, this guy could get a title match without even having to earn it because he was the former champion. And if you take away everything that happened at Scrumgate, he would have forfeited the belt anyway because he was injured. So remove Scrumgate from the situation. This is exactly who Punk would probably be targeting upon his return. I think it would have been better if Punk never got injured and he dropped the title to MJF. Oh, I wish MJF was champion right now because he beat CM Punk. But now he's the champion. Punk is going to be coming back, and I think Punk should be targeting him unless they want to go in a different direction with Punk, unless they want to, have him enter the pool slowly, like work with Jericho, work with Samoa Joe, work with somebody else away from the title before moving him into that. But then you kind of have to have an explanation for that, do you not? Because this is your champion who never lost the title coming back after an injury. So why would he not go straight for the championship? They're going to have some sort of reason for that. And one way they could do that is have CM Punk come out on the first night and make that his goal. That's the very first thing he'll say on the mic. Last time you saw me, I won the AEW championship, but I got injured and wasn't able to defend the title. And as far as I'm concerned, Maxwell Jacob Friedman's walking around with my championship. So my first order of business upon my return is going to go get my belt back. And that's when Jericho's music hits or Samoa Joe's music hits. They come out, they distract him away from that. Hey, before you can even think about MJF, you're gonna have to get through me or whatever. And that's how Punk does his introductory feud. I could see something like that, but it does look like it's all but confirmed at this point that CM Punk, number one, is coming back. He will be re-debuting in the company on June 17th, which will be their first ever AEW Collision 2-hour Saturday show. And all of these announcements should be made this coming Wednesday on Dynamite. I'm going to try my best to be here on Wednesday. I should be with no problem. We'll watch Dynamite together this week. We'll watch Tony Khan's announcement and we'll try to find out and try to make sense out of whatever he said. There was a CM Punk mentioned in MJF's little vignette on Dynamite as well. So they're not really shying away from this. I think next week will be interesting to see if Tony Khan just outright announces CM Punk coming back, or if they try to do the, he's here, even though we haven't officially announced it type of deal. But I think CM Punk already had that. I don't think Punk should be given the hero's welcome like he was 2 years ago with this specific return based on how he left. I just think that would send a bad message to your locker room if you're Tony Khan. if you put this guy up on another pedestal, this guy that caused this huge rift in your company, and someone with his actions or his retaliation or whatever it was, whatever his motives were, set in motion more drama and turmoil than AEW deserved to have. So to bring him back in this manner and bring him back like a hero again, no wonder this guy got a big head. No wonder he thought that he had the right to say the things he said in a media scrum, because he felt bulletproof. He felt untouchable. To a degree he is. He still never got fired for that. And he's coming back. And if he gets brought back in and showcased in the way that he was 2 years ago, I'm not sure if that really sends a good message to your locker room either. So I think his return needs to be carefully planned. I think CM Punk, is probably willing to do whatever business he can to get back in the door. I hope he's not going to come back with a huge attitude. There's been a lot of talk about, unresolved issues still with the Elite. And Meltzer elaborated about that this week in The Observer, saying that nothing has really changed in terms of smoothing things over because no one is allowed to contact each other. And there's that weird rule again. Is there a court order that says these guys can't talk to each other? Because I don't understand how just a memo from Tony Khan would be enough to legally prevent these guys from sending text messages to each other. Perhaps there is language in the contract that says you can't verbally attack or abuse anyone or anything like that. And so if a text message that's well-intended breaks down into something that's ugly, maybe that can come back and bite him in the ass. I don't know. But this idea that Punk has wanted to apologize, that's what Meltzer has been saying. He said that Punk has wanted to apologize, but he can't. And things, even though things aren't resolved, things are a little more reasonable now. These are Dave's words. A little more reasonable now, and at least one person has said, on the Elite side of things, has said that they want to apologize to Punk, but can't. And I think that person is probably Kenny Omega, if I had to guess, but who knows? CM Punk's, though, still been busy on social media, dropping his little hints and sometimes fanning the flames and sometimes doing his best to put them out. And he had an Instagram post where he's working out on a treadmill and he's wearing a Patrick Waugh shirt, who's my mortal enemy, because back in the day, the Colorado Avalanche and the Detroit Red Wings hated each other. As a matter of fact, I think the photo of Patrick Waugh on the shirt is the one of his bloody brawl with Red Wings goalie Mike Vernon back in like 1995 or whatever year that was. And as a big Red Wings fan, the Avalanche were right there neck and neck, and we traded a couple of playoff losses with each other. They won a cup, we won a couple of cups, and it's been a rivalry, man. So seeing that shirt on Punk really took me back. Because man, those Avalanche. I did like Patrick Waugh, though. He had some brilliant comeback. Somebody was trying to talk smack to him, and they're like, "Hey, what do you think about this guy? What he said about you?" And he goes, "I don't know. I couldn't hear him. I had my 2 Stanley Cup rings in my ears." Pretty cool. So he's a legendary goalie, but man, seeing that shirt gave me PTSD of the old Red Wings and Avalanche rivalry. If you're from Colorado, fuck you, man. I'm kidding. I have a lot of family in Denver, which made it harder. Ay. Hey, let's talk about this quick little report from Wade Keller. Wade Keller has actually been reporting that a few people in WWE, talent-wise, are actually happy that Vince McMahon is back and has at least some control or input in creative. I kind of thought this was a non-story because when you read it, he claims that he was told by 2 talents in particular that they're happy Vince is back and that a few others in the company are happy as well. I think what this comes down to is just how you are used by whoever's in charge. If people were in a better position under Vince, if they were getting more TV time and they were getting better treatment than Triple H, naturally you're going to be happy that Vince McMahon is back, or you're going to prefer him. If you're a talent, I would assume most times you're going to prefer whichever guy does you the most favors. And Triple H has his favorites. Vince had his favorites. That's going to be the case with any changing of the guard in any creative. So if you ever oust one person and bring somebody else in, there is going to be, just by default, talent that are affected by that. And that was kind of a non-story in my mind. Even though I feel like the majority of fans and people in WWE want nothing to do with Vince, it would be silly to believe that nobody's happy he's back. There's got to be some that actually are okay with it. Not everybody thinks the same way, and I'm not surprised to read that report at all. I think it's kind of a non-story. Vince, I've maintained from the start that fans get very uppity. I was laughing my ass off last night. I was actually home to watch SmackDown and watching people on Twitter, freak out. They think, and we'll talk about Roman in a minute, but they think, Roman's tag title defense is because of Vince, and Vince wants to put 6 belts on Roman, and any sort of questionable booking decision at all is now immediately attributed to Vince. And it's just so short-sighted. It's so silly. I've been saying since day one that regardless of what Vince McMahon's role in creative is, it is still 100 times better than it was a year ago or a year and a half ago, because a year ago, Vince was still there in the thick of it, making everybody's life miserable. Wrestling and the content in WWE was absolute garbage under Vince. Then Vince leaves. Things get better. The sale happens. Vince kind of is hovering a little bit, but he's not in full control. Headset sitting at Gorilla. And regardless of what you think Vince is doing, well, he's running things from home. It's different. He might have input. Yes, I'm sure he's always had input even before, you found out about this. But no matter what he's in charge of, it's not the same as being there at Gorilla, at the monitor with your headset on, firing off angry decisions, getting mad, changing your mind. If Vince is in his quiet jet, or if he's in his living room, or if his dog's sucking him off, or whatever the hell's going on, he's in a better place mentally than being in there in Gorilla, where he can really fuck shit up and let his emotions get the best of him. I still think it's better to have Vince in the position we have now than where we had him a year and a half ago. And I said the whole getting rid of Vince thing is going to be a process. It's not going to happen overnight. This dude cannot outfight Father Time. He can't. So we will have the day when Vince isn't here. And getting rid of him wasn't going to be a Band-Aid type of ripoff. I mean, it's going to be a slow thing to shove him out a little bit more. He tries to come back in, shove him out a little bit more. At the end of the day, Triple H is in charge of the day-to-day, and Vince has influence. It's probably never not been that way. But what fans are doing now is that anytime we see something stupid on Raw or SmackDown, they think it's Vince. It's just automatically Vince. No, Triple H isn't the greatest. I am very happy that he is in charge. I'd prefer him any day of the week over Vince McMahon, but he's still Triple H. He's still somebody that's been in the WWE system. And I said this a year ago when Vince left. I'm like, if you think everything's going to change now, you're mistaken. Triple H is going to clean up some of, these glaring issues and just gaps in creative and shit that doesn't make sense. We're going to see that get a little better, but it's not going to be cured. Triple H is still going to do plenty of things that's going to make us scratch our heads. He is not perfect. He's better than Vince, but he's still going to do WWE things. You're still going to see the shows structured and formulaic as always. Hopefully he's just going to try to add a little more spice and variety in there, but the way the shows are structured, the segments, the times, how they set up matches, how they set up feuds, and everything is largely going to be done the same. We were just hoping that a lot of the silliness was going to maybe dissipate a little, and Triple H was going to have a better handle on things from a continuity perspective in creative, and maybe less things would make no sense. And I think that's where we're at. Triple H has done a shitty job with the women's division. He has given us some pay-per-view matches that has made us wonder why the hell he did that, but we would be getting that anyway. Even if Vince was completely out of the picture, Triple H is still going to do things from a creative standpoint that we're not going to agree with. The best bookers and creative people are going to do that. Paul Heyman wasn't perfect in ECW. He had a great creative mind, but he did a lot of stupid shit there. Same thing in the Attitude Era. Vince Russo gets a lot of credit for the storylines we saw in the Attitude Era, but he should get a lot of flack for some of the dumb ideas that he had. Nobody will ever be perfect. There's no such thing as a perfect booker. There's not. Even the most respected wrestling minds were not perfect at all, not in the least. So I think with Triple H, he brings in sanity, he brings in stability, he brings in a little bit more forward thought with some of his ideas, because I know with Vince, he's booking matches that he forgot he booked 2 weeks ago. We heard stories like that. Vince didn't even know this is a rematch type of thing. So Triple H, I think, has got a little bit better grasp on that, and I much prefer him in charge of WWE than Vince. But this idea that anything bad you see on TV is all Vince's fault and nobody else, come on, don't be ridiculous and get a grip on your emotions, man. For fuck's sake. So anyway, that Vince stuff was pretty much a non-story. I do want to talk about this week's Dynamite real quick. Let me cruise over here to the chat and get us caught up, And please ask you guys to smash Mr. Thumbs Up button. That would be really, really great if you would do that, and I'd appreciate it. Let's talk about this week's Dynamite. We're not going to run through everything here, but I want to talk about a couple of key points. And some of the interesting non-wrestling things we saw on Dynamite was the return of Thunder Rosa and Miro. So we cut backstage at one point, and the camera is kind of focused on some feet, and the camera's brought up to reveal Miro returning, and he goes into Tony Khan's office. Later on, they show Thunder Rosa doing the same thing. Renee grabs a word with Thunder Rosa, and she says, "It's a good day to come to talk to Papi Khan." And she goes right in to his door. So they're kind of setting the table here that talent wants to be featured. And then Tony Khan later on would do that, what looked to be a pre-tape, where he announced that next week he's going to have a major announcement regarding AEW, and he talked about how talent is lining up to be featured to compete, and that they might have to be upping their content. So he basically announced it without announcing it. Next week, the whole thing can be made official, and he'll be doing that on Dynamite next week. So that's good that they plan on bringing Thunder Rosa and Miro back. Now, Miro, from what I understand, is cool with most people. Thunder Rosa does have some heat with the women's locker room, so I'm wondering if Saturdays are going to be the spots for Punk, Miro, and Thunder Rosa. That seems like what Tony Khan is trying to imply here, that talent that we haven't seen in a while is coming back, and, you know, maybe bringing CM Punk in that way with Thunder Rosa and Miro, all of them coming back on that Saturday show together at the same time, might be a way to shield CM Punk from all of that attention that he's going to be getting about the all-out brawl from last year. Because when he comes back, there's going to be a lot of fans that are going to hope he's going to talk about it. And if he doesn't, that's going to be a pretty good indicator that they're going to try to keep this whole thing kayfabe and keep him separate for a while. So if they combine his return with other people and make the theme of the show the second coming, not only for him, but maybe for a few others who've been off TV for a long time. Miro, Rosa, and Punk have all been missing for a while. So if they're all on that Saturday show, that's a good start. If you're really going to separate these brands and you're going to have one group of talent on one show and one group on the other, you know, you've started out well for your Saturday show if you're going to be, if you're going to have Thunder Rosa, Miro, and CM Punk, because that's a former women's champion, TNT champion, and AEW champion right off the bat. So we will see next week. It'll be interesting to hear what Tony Khan says, even though we kind of know what he is going to say. I just want to know if he's going to mention Punk or not, or if maybe Punk does the same thing that Miro and Thunder Rosa does. What if on Dynamite we see Punk show up backstage and knock on the door and go in? Maybe they bring him back that way. It just depends on so many factors are dependent on how you bring CM Punk back, because we can all have ideas about it. There's a million ideas that you could do that would work, make sense, or would be fun, but it's all dependent on what the hell's going on behind the scenes. MJF had a pretty good little video package where he compared all of the four pillars to the Beatles, which is interesting. He also mentioned CM Punk, so there's another CM Punk drop there. Just the other day, oh no, maybe that was something else. I thought I saw AEW post a CM Punk video, but I think I'm confusing that with something else. But MJF did mention him, and like I said, MJF would be a great person for CM Punk to confront on his first night back. That's what I do. We also had a great in-ring promo with FTR. So FTR's in the ring. They ask Jeff Jarrett and company, or they ask Mark Briscoe to come out to the ring so they can clear some things up with their friend. But instead, we get Jeff Jarrett and Satnam and Sonjay and Jay Lethal, and they're trying to challenge FTR to a tag team title match at Double or Nothing. And FTR, Dax specifically said, look, we'll accept your challenge if you admit you used Mark Briscoe to get to us. And before they can really get to brawling, Mark Briscoe then comes out. This boy is so country. Hold on a minute. Like, I just love him. I could watch Mark Briscoe on TV speaking or cutting a promo literally every day. He's like a biscuit and Mountain Dew fucked and had a baby. He's great. He's so great. And he's out there. He's trying to stop everything, cooler heads, that type of stuff. He's got I think a bottle of tequila and a bunch of cups. And he wants everybody to simmer down. That's what he kept saying, simmer down. And he announces that he is going to be the referee at Double or Nothing in their tag team championship match. So he's going to be the special referee for that. And then he gets out tequila, starts pouring it in the cups and tells him to pass it around. Sonjay takes a drink, spits it right deliberately into Dax's eyes, which blinds him. We then have a brawl ensue, and Dax actually accidentally pile drives Mark Briscoe because he can't see from the tequila in his face. So that's just going to more drive a wedge between FTR and Mark. And now that he pile drove him, we'll see if Mark is going to, hold any resentment towards Dax for that, or FTR. And with him being the special referee, that's probably going to add an interesting dynamic to the tag match. We might actually see Jeff Jarrett be a champion in 2023 in pro wrestling, and that would just be nuts. But that was a pretty good segment. Mark Briscoe was so entertaining. Good stuff there. In terms of the matches in the ring, great opener between Claudio and Ray Phoenix. I enjoyed that. Orange Cassidy and Daniel Garcia had a great battle for the All-Atlantic title, and Orange Cassidy just continuing to roll. This dude's over and, one of the hottest wrestlers in the world right now. Hands in his pockets or not. Suck on that, haters. House of Black defeated Bandito and the Best Friends for the trios titles, or in a trios championship match. Didn't really like the Dark Lights thing. Didn't love it because it felt like what WWE does. And if you guys remember, one of my biggest complaints about TNA back in the day is them trying to be a carbon copy of what WWE is. AEW is far from that. AEW, at the end of the day, all these wrestling promotions are wrestling promotions. So you're going to have guys wrestling in a wrestling ring in front of an audience. There's only so many ways you can change that up. So it's not just a matter of trying to be like WWE, but when TNA actually had, kind of an alternative vibe, they had 6 rings. They had a different division, a new division, a more exciting division. They had, they were kind of carrying the torch from how WCW was doing things with the cruiserweights by having the X division, having cruiserweight styled wrestlers winning their championship. And they really did feel like an alternative, because I was not used to seeing wrestlers work in 6-sided rings. And I wasn't used to seeing some of the crazy matches we were seeing on the world title level in TNA. And then they fucked it up. Then they hired Hogan and Bischoff, made their rings square, went live on Monday nights. And I'm like, well, what are you doing? The whole reason you are successful to begin with is that you're giving us something different. Don't try to be like them. Don't out WWE them. Stay in your lane. That was my biggest issue with them. So I have to at least be fair and try to point out these same things with AEW as well, even though I don't think they're nearly as bad. AEW truly does feel like a different wrestling product to me. It looks different vibes, different pay-per-views. We see a lot more blood, a lot more violence. We see a lot more alternative style wrestling there than we do in WWE. That's still very flashy, very glossy, very formulaic. And AEW has not gotten there, nowhere close. But they might borrow certain things here and there that I just don't think are necessary. And when we've seen things like the Fiend matches and the Bray Wyatt matches and the Kane matches at first when he came in, Sin Cara, every time pro wrestling has tried to have matches with a different lighting setup, it sucks. And I think wrestling promotions need to give this up. It's not going to work. It doesn't look good. Stop it. So this match would have been perfectly fine with all the lights fucking up, but they turned them down. No big deal. At the end of the day, Hobbs. I have HOB for House of Black. I almost called them Hobbs. House of Black retain their trios title, and those belts look different. Did they make those silver now instead of gold, or was that the lighting? But House of Black was busy, man. Julia Hart also defeated her former friend Anna Jay in a pretty gnarly no-holds-barred match. I like it when women who you don't expect to get hardcore get hardcore. It's a good thing I'm talking about wrestling, otherwise that sentence would have sounded weird. But especially when it's like the hot chicks, bloodying each other. I love that. I love to see them get gritty. Good on you girls. I was there at Dynamite at the Forum, and I know that was the one where it was Ruby Riott and Willow against Anna and Ty Mello. I forgot what that match was, but there's a pile driver through the table on Rampage, that whole gnarly mess. I was there for that one. So I've seen Anna Jay get nuts before, and good on her and Julia for having a pretty decent match for what it was, Funny segment backstage also with Chris Jericho on Wednesday. I loved. He's back there with Renee, And he says that because Adam Cole got the best of him, or that's what Renee said. She said, Adam Cole got the best of you. How does that make you feel? And it made Jericho feel upset, so much so that he went out and got a court order that says that anytime that Jericho is in the building, that Adam Cole is banned. You're banned, just like it's Joe's fruit stand. So Adam Cole can no longer enter the building when Jericho is there, which is ludicrous. It's kind of, even though I thought it was funny, it's dumb. It doesn't make any sense. Adam Cole works there. He's an AEW talent. You can't, unless this is Jericho's way of throwing shade at CM Punk a little bit, there might be some court order stuff in the Punk Elite nonsense. Maybe that's why there are separate shows for these guys. I don't know. Maybe that's Jericho's way of referencing it. Otherwise, it doesn't make any sense. You wouldn't be able to, as a talent, to be able to ban somebody else from the building. You shouldn't be able to do that, and you wouldn't be able to do that at all. And the fact that Jericho got this signed in a court is just a little bit silly. But then Roderick Strong shows up, and he's like, all right, Jericho, I challenge you to a Falls Count Anywhere match next week. So Roddy and Jericho are set to face next week. And Jericho's like, that's fine. I have no problem facing you because I have an army with me, but you don't have anybody. Adam Cole is banned. He can't be in the building if I'm there. And Roddy's like, well, I knew you were going to say that. So I went and got a court order of my own that says that the Jericho Appreciation Society is banned from ringside. So it's going to be Roderick Strong versus Chris Jericho one-on-one next week in a Falls Count Anywhere match that I have full confidence that Jericho will win. He has to, because it's going to be Jericho and Cole at Double or Nothing. You're not going to have Jericho take a loss here to Roderick Strong unless Adam Cole breaks the court order and shows up and helps Roderick Strong win. And then maybe that's enough to set Jericho off where he challenges Cole to something at Double or Nothing. We'll see. Should be a good match next week. Loved the Christian promo as well. My God, he was getting some heat. Christian's on the cusp of really being able to transition into that full-blown asshole mode. And he's there, man. He was getting a lot of response from the crowd, bad-mouthing Wardlow and his dad. And then when he was talking about Arn Anderson, holy shit, was there a close call here. I could not believe they almost went there, but he then shifts his focus to shitting on Arn Anderson. And then he says that Arn has been looking for a new son anyway, because Arn has been like a dad to Wardlow. And that works out because Arn's been looking for another son anyway. And I was like, what? What? Because Arn Anderson's son passed away not long ago. But he reveals then that he was referring to Brock Anderson, Arn's other son, who is currently signed to AEW, and that Brock is a failure, and that's why Arn has latched himself to Wardlow. But for a minute there, I thought he was referencing the recently passed away son. I forget his name, Garrett. It's either Barrett or Garrett Anderson. Passed away not that long ago, and Arn is still grieving that. And the fact that Christian almost brought that up, or at least teased bringing it up, might have added some heat there. That was pretty nuts. I was very surprised that he said that, even though he was talking about Brock Anderson. The pause was long enough that it implied otherwise, and it was just a little gnarly for Greg. But Christian is a great heel. He's a great heel. I'd be perfectly fine with him winning the TNT title. It feels like the TNT title has been hot potatoed for a while. If I'm in Tony Khan's position, if I'm putting the belt back on Wardlow after already cooling him off and fucking up his career more than once, putting the belt back on him now only to drop it to Christian, I don't know. I feel like if I'm going to be invested in Wardlow, I'm going to be invested in Wardlow all the way. And I'm going to keep Wardlow champion all the way until All In, and I'm going to put him against Goldberg. Maybe I do that. Otherwise, the idea of Christian being a champion right now in AEW is really attractive to me because he is just money on the mic, and you need guys who get heat. You need guys to get that reaction, that heel reaction from the audience where you really hate them. Roman legitimately pissed me off last night on SmackDown. That guy is so fucking good. And Christian is the same way. He's excellent. He really knows how to do this because he's been doing it so long, and he's got it down to a science. And I was really happy with the reaction Christian was getting from the crowd, and I think he's onto something there. He was absolutely brutal in the Jungle Boy feud, everything he was saying about Jungle Boy, about his dad, about his family. That was great. He was kind of ramping it up here. And I would love to see Christian be a heel that comes out and eviscerates people to the degree that MJF does. But maybe instead of MJF kind of getting some of the appreciative cheers from the audience just because how good and funny he is, just have Christian be straight asshole. Straight, 100% unadulterated, raw asshole. And just have him be like that. And Roman last night, the way he was treating Jimmy Uso and Jey Uso and some of the things he was saying about them and the disrespect was legit pissing me off. I was so happy that at 45 years old in 2023, after 40 years of watching wrestling, I can still get emotionally angry at a heel like that. Didn't think it was possible. But Roman was being a fucking asshole, an asshole last night. And so I think I'm just really into the assholes right now. Again, interesting sentence. But Christian was just, I loved his demeanor. I loved the reaction he was getting, and I kind of want to see him do more of this. So right now, I kind of hope Christian maybe beats Wardlow for the title. And if you were to bring in Goldberg, if Tony Khan wanted to bring this fuck in, I would bring him in as a heel. Because WWE would never do that. They got to capitalize on the merch and the spears and the music and all that shit in the, over-the-top persona of Goldberg. But if you really want to make some money and Goldberg really wants to do something memorable, different, try making him a heel. Because back when they tried it in WCW, he was still a little bit too white hot to give that a go, I think, although he had lost all that time with the wrist thing. But nowadays, when many fans have a bad taste in their mouth about the guy anyway, you're not going to be sacrificing any monumental cheers or anything like that. I would bring Goldberg back as a heel and pair him up with Christian and have the two of them just decimate one of the shows as just legendary Hall of Fame heels coming in to, show AEW who's boss or something. I don't know. But if you were going to tie in Goldberg and you were going to bring Goldberg in, at least do something different and don't just bring him in to do what WWE was doing with him. Turn him heel, put him with Christian, and have the two of them tear shit up. Maybe it can be good. Just an idea. The main event of Dynamite on Wednesday was super gnarly. I picked the worst Dynamite to miss. I could have even not worked on Wednesday had I wanted to. It's just, I figured I'd go in, no big deal. And then I realized that, that's a card I really wish I was home for. So I wish I was here watching Dynamite live with you guys last week, but I will be here this week. The main event was crazy. Jon Moxley, Kenny Omega, steel cage match. We knew something was going to go down here. Overboard on the violence, not for AEW. Overboard on the violence for some, but guess what? That's why you have one company that bleeds and one company that doesn't. So just switch to the other show if you don't like it. This was pretty violent, and we knew it would be because these guys have never had a non-violent match. The most non-violent they've been is when they botched exploding themselves. The most non-violent moment Omega and Moxley have ever had together is when they were supposed to blow up and they didn't. So, or at least one of them didn't. Moxley didn't. So you knew they were going to be bringing the violence. No, I don't know if barbed wire trampolines are necessary. They had one of those in that one of those earlier brawls between the two. But you knew you were going to have blood and you were going to have weapons. Weapons of choice in this one, broken glass and a barbed wire chair. Lovely, lovely. That's so nice. So the blood's flowing. We know that. Gnarliest spot of the match, V-trigger through the cage. I don't know if it was designed to go exactly the way it did. And I think Omega is lucky he didn't tear a knee or anything like that, but it looked so good. It looked so good. He's got Moxley pinned between the cage and the ropes. He comes flying up for a V-trigger. Obviously, they gimmicked the cage to give way, and so they go right through it to the floor. But as Omega delivered the move, the knee, his other leg fell between, I guess, the cage and the, what did it fall between? The cage and the ropes? I don't know what the hell he did, but he stopped almost dead in his tracks. He didn't make the spill all the way to the outside. He's got his legs pinned in between the apron and the cage, I think is what it was. And he was kind of hanging over the front, but the way his body jerked and put a lot of pressure, I believe on his right leg, looked very, very scary. And luckily he seemed to be fine. He was up almost instantly after that. You could see the referee checking on him and all was well. So he dodged a bullet there. I don't think that this was anything overly dangerous. I think the spot was designed to, be relatively safe, but sometimes things happen. If you want to point to, irresponsible stuff that a wrestling company might do, endangering wrestlers, things like that. Oh, these guys got to be careful. They're going to do this style is going to get somebody killed. This isn't a good example of that. This move was fine. This was just how Kenny fell. That could have happened anywhere. Botches happen everywhere. Injuries happen everywhere, not just one promotion. If you want to point to stupid things AEW has done, just point to when Matt Hardy fell off the thing and hit his head and they let him continue. That's irresponsibility. But just trying to point to everything, if one guy bleeds or does something and you're using that as ammunition in your dipshit war, get a life. This was not that way. This was a spot that looked great. And some fans are so hell-bent on being tribal that they don't enjoy awesome shit because that was a great spot. Those V-triggers are so gnarly. And when he came, just in general, without doing what they did, and when he came through with that on Mox through the cage and the way he fell and turned, you want casual people tuning in to think this looks as real as possible. Yes, the cat is out of the bag now, but you still want your shit to look real, right? So, where do you draw the line? If you have a happy accident where something maybe didn't totally go as planned, but looked great, and on top of that, nobody got injured, that's a bonus. That's what's called the jackpot. You want those moments. It's a lot safer than some of the things we have seen back in the day from WWE when they were just given zero fucks and Mick Foley's base jumping off of cages and shit. WWE's not immune to it either. But I thought the spot and the match it's what they wanted to do. At the end of the day, broken glass sucks. Moxley's back probably hurts and it's a pain in the ass. But at the end of the day, it's not going to, shorten his life. But they broke, the turnbuckle and the rope off and, they're using it in submissions and stuff. I loved all that stuff. The spots, the violence, everything was great. AEW does a lot of violent matches. That's what they do. And there are times when you overdo the violence, then it can water it down. And you could make the argument that AEW does that sometimes. Sure. But other times there's some matches when you just expect it. And I would have been bummed out if Moxley and Omega had, a cage match with no blood and a regular winner and, nothing crazy. I expect barbed wire, tacks, glass, shit like that when these two guys hook up, and that's the way it should be. So it was a great Dynamite. I didn't even talk about the finish. By the way, after the V-trigger through the cage and after Kenny Omega recovers and he's about to get the victory on Moxley, I guess, turns the tables on him, and Callis, who we knew has been up to something, jumps in the ring to stop Moxley, and I think he pulls out the screwdriver. Moxley takes it away from him. Kenny is able to attack Mox and capitalize, and then Callis is sitting there with the screwdriver. And you could kind of see it coming. You could kind of smell it. Kenny was there. Callis was there. He's been sketchy lately when he fell down with Hangman. The recruiting of Takeshita, he's up to something, but what's kind of brilliant about this whole thing is you don't really know what. What's great about Don Callis and whatever he's up to is it's not super predictable. It's not like, oh, it's so obvious he's going to do this. No, it isn't. I'm not sure what the hell he's going to do unless you guys are more dialed in than I am. I cannot figure out quite yet what his motivations are unless he's maybe trying to create his own faction to go up against the Elite or something like that. But they're busy with the BCC right now, or maybe he's joining the BCC. But Bryan Danielson, who was on commentary for this, said, at least his character said, that he didn't know about it, but he was very happy about it. And after Callis smashes Kenny with the screwdriver, opens his head up, Moxley's able just to fall right on him for the win and win the match. So that's probably, I'm guessing, going to lead to a BCC and Elite Anarchy in the Arena match at Double or Nothing, because the Anarchy in the Arena match last year was awesome. The BCC even came down through my entrance because I had like a private bar and shit, and that's where they came through. And that was a fun match with the JAS. So if they do it again, Anarchy in the Arena too, I think this one will be just as fun, might even be a little bit better with the Elite, and I'm looking forward to that. So it was a good Dynamite, great main event. Good all around. Like, I did not see really a weak point on this show. I mentioned that I didn't love the House of Black match, but other than that, I thought everything else was really good on Dynamite. this week. You know, it was also pretty good. Monday Night Raw. Monday Night Raw had the triple threat deals that would select their finalists. So there was 2 triple threat matches on each show. The winners of the triple threats would face in the main event, and in the main event of Raw, it was Seth Rollins versus Finn Balor. Now, in the earlier triple threat match, it was Balor and Cody and Miz. I forgot who else was. I forgot the layout now. But in Cody's match, you knew something was going to happen. We talked about this in the Backlash review on Saturday night last week, and I said that night that Cody and Brock are going to work again. You absolutely know they're going to work a second match because fans were kind of confused at the finish. Why did Cody pin him and run away? And like, they were going to do a finish at Backlash regardless that was going to leave the door open for a second match. You weren't going to get your Cody clean, definitive victory there. Neither one of these guys were going to beat the other like that on that show. I said that right from the start. So it was funny to me when fans were still confused about that finish. I'm like, it's because they're going to wrestle again. God damn, how long have you been watching wrestling? This is very easy. This is a formula. It's the same way they do everything most times. So the Backlash finish didn't surprise me. And I knew that Brock was going to be on Raw to either attack Cody before his triple threat match or during. Turned out to be during. Brock shows up, yanks Cody out of the ring, and just fucks him up. F5s him through the table. He's got a black eye. He's got stitches from all the blood that he shed at Backlash. And he basically sits there, cuts a promo with Cody's head in his lap, and challenges him to a match at Night of Champions. So we know we're going to get that now, which is unsurprising. It keeps Cody away from that World Heavyweight Championship right now so he can keep busy, and they can make somebody else first champion of that. So hopefully Cody can go on and face Roman for the World Heavyweight title. And, you know, maybe if Seth Rollins AJ Styles does wind up winning the World Heavyweight title, he's a SmackDown guy. By default now, he's going to have to go to Raw. You know, maybe to even that up, you have Cody winning Money in the Bank and going to SmackDown. So that might be the little trade they're setting up for here. But Cody and Brock, you would assume, maybe even as early as this Monday, because I believe Cody is going to speak on Raw. He's probably going to suggest a stipulation for this. And if he suggests a stipulation, I think it would be fun to do like a Texas bull rope match or something that Dusty helped make famous, or maybe, and I know we just did this at SummerSlam last year, but maybe a last man standing match. Last man standing matches are a good way to beat Brock without pinning him. Otherwise, you might have to do some sort of stipulation where he's just got to beat him down. Fight pit match. You could do a Hell in the Cell. Hell in the Cell's now back being used where they're warranted, and based on the personal nature of Cody's feud with Brock, I think a Hell in the Cell is warranted here. Stretcher match could even be done. You could beat Brock that way by wheeling his ass across a line on a stretcher. But I think if you were going to do a stretcher match, they would have stretchered Cody out. I don't think they stretchered Cody out on Monday, did they not? If they were going to do a stretcher match, they probably would have made a big deal about a stretcher's presence. They probably would have mentioned it over and over. Earlier tonight, Cody Rhodes stretchered out. They probably would have said that shit like 6 times, which would telegraph the stretcher match, but didn't really get that vibe. So it's probably not going to be a stretcher match either, but there's got to be a stip attached to this somehow. It was a submission move that Cody countered. So to win at Backlash, maybe Brock proposed a submission match, but I feel like this match is too brutal it's too personal for a submission match. These guys should fight. Although Brett and Austin did a pretty good job of fighting in their submission match at WrestleMania, but we'll see. Cody Rhodes, I'm sure, will pitch a stipulation there. So that's kind of what happened on Raw this past week. Last night's SmackDown was a lot of fun. I didn't hate last night's SmackDown, primarily because we had the triple threat matches that would lead to the main event, and you have only a 2-hour show, meaning you have a hell of a lot less filler. So every match last night on SmackDown felt like it meant something, and there was a reason for it. So the 2 triple threat matches last night were Edge and Rey Mysterio and AJ Styles in one match, and Lashley, Theory, and Sheamus in the other. Now, a couple of days prior, Edge, when this match was made, I think posted a video on Instagram or social media somewhere where he talked about winning the World Heavyweight title. Oh, Iron Man match, that's possible too. And, excuse me, extra thirsty for some reason. So Edge posted a video saying that he would like to become the World Heavyweight Champion. It would be a perfect way for him to retire. There's been a lot of talk about Edge's retirement lately. And he said that if he did win the World Heavyweight Championship, that as soon as he lost it, that would be the end. And I kind of thought to myself, I'm like, he checks a lot of the same boxes that I've been mentioning in terms of the World Heavyweight title and who you want on the top of the card. One of the reasons why I thought Seth Rollins was the perfect choice is because he is going to be one of your more modern Hall of Fame wrestlers that you have. This guy has developed a Hall of Fame legacy for himself already. He's going to go down in history as one of your best, and he's still currently active, and he's a legend that's separated from the Attitude Era legends. He would be a perfect guy to have at the very top of this World Heavyweight Championship lineage that's, starting in 2023. But with Edge, that would also look very good at the top, especially since Edge kind of had to retire as World Heavyweight Champion all those years ago, coming back and winning, albeit not the same title, but another World Heavyweight Championship, and this time losing it instead of having to forfeit it before he retires would be a good way for him to finish his story. So I didn't exactly hate that idea. So I'm like, okay, Seth and Edge, I'm cool with either of them there. Then we start hearing reports that WWE is also thinking about having AJ Styles be the first World Heavyweight Champion. So for everybody that complains about Vince, if Vince has anything to do with any of these decisions, I'm fine with that. Because right here, WWE has given me and put Greg in a situation where I'm going to be happy either way. Seth Rollins, Edge, AJ Styles. Strap either one of them up. I don't give a shit. I'm massive fans of all three. All three would be more than worthy of being atop the World Heavyweight Championship lineage. Do what you want. I don't care. Of course, fans are still going to have super hardcore opinions about which one of these guys is right and which one of these guys is wrong. But really, at the end of the day, they're all right. And if any of them are wrong, then I don't want to be right because I like all of them. So I was happy with the way things were looking because in my mind, it was either going to be Rollins against Edge or Rollins against AJ. That's going to be our final at Night of Champions. And that is a win-win for Mr. Morgan. So Edge faced Rey Mysterio and AJ Styles in the first match. And unfortunately, this was a pretty quick end to Edge's World Championship aspirations because right after posting that video, he was the one that even took the pin in this match. It was a fun match because think about who you have here. Edge and Rey have got a ton of history that dates back 20 plus years, and you add AJ into this mix, who is feuded with both of these guys. These are two Hall of Famers and a future Hall of Famer, which is pretty awesome. And help me out. I mean, having active people on your roster as Hall of Fame wrestlers is pretty rare. I mean, we've had guys go into the Hall of Fame and then come back and work matches, but help me out, statisticians. How many triple threat matches have we seen where two guys are Hall of Famers? I'm sure one exists, especially if it's an old veteran coming back or something like that. But in terms of active people, that's a pretty incredible stat right there. So they had the belt displayed in the aisle. So this Raw exclusive belt was displayed proudly on SmackDown. That's nice. A couple of good spots in the match here to Edge, double spear to the floor to AJ and Rey, which is good. All sorts of great shit with a double Hurricane Rana onto Edge and AJ with a double 619 attempt, and then a double drop kick into Rey's face, which was all really well done in a really awesome Hall of Fame sequence. We had an awesome educator to Rey Mysterio, and then one to AJ, but as Edge is applying it to AJ, Rey comes in with the 619. Weird finish, though. I didn't know what to make of this. Rey jumped off the top rope onto Edge, and it looked like he was maybe supposed to get speared because he kind of sold it like a spear, but Edge didn't spear him, so it almost looked like Rey got hurt or botched something, and he just basically fell straight to his back, and that was probably supposed to be a spear because then Edge stood up and AJ came in with the phenomenal forearm from the top, nailed Edge with it and pinned him for the win. So just like that, Edge's hopes of being World Heavyweight Championship are dashed. And he will probably, I would assume, oh, well, no, he can't. He's on SmackDown. I'm about to say he'll probably get a title shot before he retires, but I guess no, he won't because he's on SmackDown. So that will be the end of Edge, and AJ then moves on to face the winner of Lashley, Theory, and Sheamus, which was up next. Now, Lashley got a nasty cut on his head, bleeding everywhere. I don't know if they called for the finish early on this or not, but he wound up winning. Sheamus came in with a brogue kick, which hit Theory, and then Lashley tossed Sheamus out and then dove on Theory for the win. And Lashley would have to go to the back and get that thing stitched up and bandaged up, because he's got a match later on against AJ Styles in the main event of SmackDown. After that, we go backstage. Grayson Waller approaches Adam Pearce. So this is Grayson Waller's debut on SmackDown, and he wants the winner of AJ and Lashley on his talk show. So Grayson Waller is given a talk show. I think he does this on NXT. Grayson Waller Effect. Can't they come up with better names for these shows? That's the best thing you can come up with, is just put the effect after the name of the guy. Think of something better. So he's got a talk show. He will be, as we know, interviewing AJ Styles next week. We also get the debut on SmackDown last night of Cameron Grimes making his main roster debut finally, after all these years of being snubbed in these drafts. Finally, he's brought up, and he's facing Baron Corbin. And I don't know if Baron Corbin, who he's pissed off, but my God, they smashed Cameron Grimes over pretty quick here. Grimes hits a cave-in just a matter of seconds and pins Baron Corbin. And I guess what was probably under 10 seconds, because Baron Corbin got on the mic and talked a little shit, and Grimes came right in with the cave-in and caught Baron Corbin off guard. So this will probably lead to a rematch on TV. Maybe they're bringing Cameron Grimes in and, 1, 2, 3 kid, scenario. And maybe Baron Corbin is now going to offer Grimes money to face him again. And these guys have both had interesting luck with money, because back in NXT, Grimes got rich off the Dogecoin. Baron Corbin was bum-ass Corbin, but then he got rich in Vegas. They've both had money attached to their name before. If Grimes can't figure out anything significant to do on the roster, and he's floundering as a single, or they can't think of anything for him, if they team him up with Baron Corbin and they kind of like resurrected the Money Inc. gimmick, maybe get a stamp of endorsement from Erwin R. Shyster, maybe even Ted DiBiase, even though his son is in a hell of a lot of trouble right now. But maybe you could do a callback to that tag team with the two of them, Money Inc., if Baron Corbin gets over his bum-ass shit. But I feel like Grimes and Corbin, they're going to be feuding the next couple of weeks on TV, and I'm sure Grimes is going to get the better of this, and then Corbin might have to be looking at another repackage or something, because this was just a hair shy of a burial right here. And next up, we had the return of the Tribal Chief to SmackDown for the first time since WrestleMania. This shithead's been off TV. He's finally back now. He's been teasing and tormenting and torturing the poor Usos through telephone messages to Paul Heyman for the better part of a month on TV. The Usos still have not yet answered for their WrestleMania tag team title loss against Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens. And now Roman was back, and he comes to the ring and he says, the Bloodline, everybody in this ring main evented WrestleMania. We'll be the only ones to ever do that. Nobody will ever do what we did at WrestleMania. Everybody in this ring was in the main event. And he gave props to Solo Sikoa for stepping up at Backlash and getting the win for the team. And then he started kind of looking at the Usos, kind of teasing them and ignoring them halfway through the promo. Jay's standing there. He's a little bit, kind of uneasy, rightfully so, because, they're going to get straight up abused by this guy. And Roman goes on to say that the Usos need to answer for their loss and dedication loss, because they lost at WrestleMania and then they dedicated the rematch on SmackDown, or Jay did anyway, to their tribal chief, Roman Reigns. And Roman takes exception to that. He gets pissed. Why would you dedicate it to me? And he is just in full asshole mode. My God, this guy's good. And he's like, why would you dedicate it to me? I'm not in a tag team. I'm not a fucking tag team. And Jimmy, who starts laughing for some reason, he gets in Jimmy's face. He goes, what am I laughing? Are we reshooting this commercial? I'm here to amuse you. And he kind of pie faces and shoves Jimmy. And, Jay gets in and kind of stops him and stops the two of them from striking, or from Jimmy striking Roman. And Jay steps in and says, look, give us one more shot. Give us one more shot at the tag team titles to prove ourselves to you. Enough of this nonsense. And this was also good because Roman is just, in complete control of these guys, and he's insulting them, and he's even taking well-intentioned things poorly. He's mad that they're dedicating losses to him when they should be dedicating the matches to the Wild Samoans, who he himself calls the greatest tag team in WWE history, right in front of the Usos' face. And Jay asks for one more shot. And then Roman says, all right, we'll have one more shot to bring the championships back to the Bloodline. And as the Usos get happy about this, Roman says something like, oh, but it's not the way you think. Wise man, why don't you fill him in? And Paul Heyman informs the Usos and the audience that at Night of Champions, Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens will be defending the tag team championships against Solo Sikoa and Roman Reigns himself. So there you have it, Roman and Solo challenging for the tag team titles. So much to unpack about this decision. Wow, I think this is great, and I'm going to tell you why. First of all, elephant in the room, Sami Zayn is now going to be working a Saudi Arabia show. Now, a lot of fans wondered why. A lot of fans jumped to a lot of conclusions. I could not believe how many people were saying, this is bullshit, this is dangerous, this is unfair. I'm like, do you know the situation? I don't think they would put him in a dangerous or unfair situation. I just don't. And Saudi Arabia and Syria have resumed work of their diplomatic missions in both countries, according to their state media. And there were previously tensions between the two countries, as we know, and Saudi Arabia with them cutting ties with Syria 10 years ago or whatever it was, due to Syria's handling of their civil war. So they've had an issue. They've had a conflict. There have been Syrian residents living or Syrian people living in Saudi Arabia even after this all happened. It's not like Sami Zayn was ever banned from there. I think it was a stand he was taking, and it was Kevin Owens standing by his friend out of solidarity. Plus, Saudi Arabia has done, their government is shady as fuck. They straight up murdered and chopped that journalist up in a million pieces on purpose, and it's messed up. But, you know, it's the government that's the real problem there, not the people. I know some people that like sail around the world, and they've been into the Mediterranean and the Indian Ocean. And one of the countries they said they were treated the best at was Saudi Arabia. The people there were kind, friendly, overly willing to help out, and very interested and curious in talking to you. It was, and more of the government that people had a problem with there. And Sami Zayn, now, if he feels for whatever political reasons with his dissent, with his country or whatever, that he can go back there, that's his business and not ours. And now that they've resumed their missions, that this makes it okay for Sami to be here, great. I think that's great, because I feel bad that Sami's missed out on these Saudi paydays. Trust me, I hate that these Saudi shows even happen to begin with, but we can't avoid them. The deal is signed. WWE's getting a shit ton of money from them. They damn near sold to them. So either way, we're going to have to deal with the Saudis. And I don't like these shows, but they're still here. I can't wish them away. So, if it's a way for, talent to get paid, then good for them. But I'm also glad that we don't have to worry about now Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn dropping these tag team titles, because that was the talk immediately after WrestleMania. What are they going to do at Night of Champions? And I said, they don't have to defend the belts. Roman's not defending his. Not every single championship needs to be defended. So it would be fine if they just missed the show. No big deal. But they're going to be at the show and going to be involved in a pretty big match against Roman Reigns and Solo Sikoa. So that takes care of the Sami Zayn stuff. What about Roman Reigns? He's WWE Undisputed Universal Champion. The biggest complaint and the biggest WTF that I was seeing last night on social media is, what? Roman Reigns isn't defending the title? What the hell? What are they doing? Vince McMahon is back. Okay. It's pretty obvious why Roman's not defending the title. Do you remember before Backlash, I was pitching this ridiculous idea, stupidly ridiculous idea of Omos beating Seth Rollins, and when he beats him, that will then maybe earn him a championship match against Roman Reigns at Night of Champions, because he's a free agent. He can be on either show, Omos. And I was like, he would be a perfect guy to face Roman, because whatever Roman does at Night of Champions needs to be in the undercard. The World Heavyweight Championship, this new belt that they're trying to not make a consolation belt, because that's the big narrative right now. It's a consolation belt. In order, if it's going to be a consolation belt, then it would be defended on the undercard and Roman would be in the main event defending his titles. So you don't want that for the title's first night when you're crowning your new champion. The World Heavyweight Championship needs to be the focal point of the pay-per-view. It needs to be your main event. I guess it's still up in the air if that match actually goes on last, but I think it will, and it should. But at the very least, it needs to be the only championship match, world championship match you have on that show, because it's the first night of the title. The title needs to be spotlighted. The title needs to be highlighted without other world championships on that show taking attention away from it, like being defended in another match. But Roman Reigns is that champion. You still want Roman Reigns on the Saudi show. You still have to give Roman to the Saudi audience. You have to. So it's either have Roman defend his championship in the undercard against maybe a weaker opponent or somebody that we know he would beat anyway, which is why I pitched Omos. It's the very reason why. But Roman Reigns' character, I'm certain, in promos has said that he is the fucking main event. And if he's defending that championship, it's the goddamn main event. That's it, period. So you're at a crossroads here. What do you do? Roman still has to be on the show, but for once, you actually need the other belt to be in the main event because it's the first night and you need to put it over properly. So the compromise here is, with the internal Bloodline storyline going on, just put Roman in a different match. He's going to go after the tag team titles here. Now the World Heavyweight title, or Roman's title, the WWE title, isn't even being defended. Therefore, the World Heavyweight title can be your number one championship defended on that show with nothing else overshadowing it or taking attention away from it. Yes, a lot of eyeballs are going to be on that tag team title match, but I really, at the end of the day, don't think that this match is designed to give Roman another belt. I think it's designed to give Roman something else to do while they crown their new World Heavyweight champion on a show that he has to be booked for. That's why they're doing this. So it's not weird. It's not head scratching. It's not, oh, they've lost their minds. It makes perfect fucking sense why they're doing this. So I don't even think that Roman really has a chance of winning the tag team titles. I think the Usos are going to fuck him, intentionally or unintentionally. I still don't know when the climax hits, when the Usos are officially, or at least Jay or one of them, are officially booted out or officially attacked. I don't know if that comes after Money in the Bank or near SummerSlam, but SummerSlam's still a ways off. I don't know if you got that much mileage left with all of the abuse, the way Roman was acting last night on SmackDown, all of that stuff. How can you have the Usos licking this guy's taint for 3 more months? It's got to come to a head, man. So I think at Night of Champions, maybe the Usos screw him, or since Roman dedicated the match to the Samoans, to the Wild Samoans, maybe the Usos feel an obligation to help out if they can, and then by doing that, they screw up and they cost Roman and Solo the win, because one thing that's got to happen here for sure is Solo Sikoa has to take this pin. Roman Reigns' first pin cannot be here in a tag team match. Unless they wanted to have Sami Zayn do it and pin Roman, but then I think you take that away, and that's got to be saved for when he loses the title. But you could actually belt up Roman in the Bloodline if you wanted to. I mean, you could have Roman and Solo win the belts and bring them back to SmackDown. See, here's how you do it, idiots. But now Roman is holding 3 belts hostage instead of just 2. And shit, maybe that's a way for them to create a new tag team championship. I don't know. But right now, as my neighbor's dog barks, I don't see a reason to put the tag team titles on Solo and Roman Reigns. I think there's more story there if the Usos screw them and that type of thing, because then there's going to be hell to pay for that, and they can do whatever they're going to do there, or Solo can get his marching orders to put the 2 of these guys out. But in terms of Roman and what he's doing at Night of Champions, 0 issue with it whatsoever. 0, none. Totally fine with it. I think it makes a lot of sense. I'm glad that they're not focusing or highlighting the WWE title on the show and having it defended. I'm glad it's all going to be about the World Heavyweight Championship. That's what you're supposed to do. If you don't want this belt to be a consolation belt, you need to highlight it and focus on it and make it the focal point of a pay-per-view. And, you know, you're in a weird position there when you're trying to do that on the same show that you're probably contractually obligated to have Roman Reigns on, because you know Saudi Arabia wants him. So this is how they chose to manage the situation. And I thought it was pretty smart. I don't know why the opposite opinion exists out there. Doesn't make no sense to me. But anyway, that whole segment last night on SmackDown was good. After that, we had Bayley and Dakota Kai taking on Liv Morgan and Raquel Gonzalez. This is a women's tag team championship match, by the way, and Liv pins Bayley to retain. And I think we have another tag team title match on Raw scheduled for this Monday as well. We also saw Pretty Deadly debut backstage. They had a run-in with the Brawling Brutes, so that will be their initial match, I guess. Maybe Pretty Deadly, Brawling Brutes will be Pretty Deadly's introductory match, feud, angle, whatever. Maybe when they beat the Brawling Brutes, this is what begins the transition of Butch back into Pete Dunne. I hope so, man. And then in the main event, we got AJ versus Bob. Bob has got a knot on the top of his head, sticking out like a Hawaii volcano. Poor guy got busted open real bad in his earlier match. And AJ Styles pretty much just wins clean with the phenomenal forearm. So he puts Bob down, and he now advances to face Seth Rollins at Night of Champions. That's going to be a hell of a match. And like I said earlier, Greg couldn't be happier, because now we're guaranteed to have a wrestler with a professional resume, you know, extremely decorated at the top of your world heavyweight title lineage, regardless of which guy wins here. And I know WWE has deep respect for both. I don't know who the correct choice is at this point. AJ is also on the verge of retirement himself. This might be a final little run for him, something nice, a little feather in his cap before he permanently hangs it up. And hell, maybe Seth can even be the one to beat him for it. If he wins it and heads to Raw, the two of them feud, and then maybe Seth wins down the line, or maybe Seth wins it from him at SummerSlam. I don't know. But if AJ won the belt, I think he should hold it and then drop it at SummerSlam. And maybe that's, you know, his final major thing he's going to do as a pro wrestler, because he is getting older. Seth Rollins, I think, also works perfectly. Puts the title on a babyface, one that's very over right now, and one who definitely is a company guy, and Seth would be a perfectly fitting name as well. So I'm happy that, at least for me, maybe not everybody, but I'm in a position where I'm happy regardless of who comes out of Night of Champions with the belt, because that's good. A lot less drama and worrying about arguing with motherfuckers. I'm going to be happy regardless of what the decision is there, and I'm probably going to defend it. So if Seth wins and people think that was the wrong choice, fuck off. It was the right choice. If AJ wins and people think that was the wrong choice, fuck off. It was the right choice. It was the right choice. So we'll wait till that match happens, but I'm curious at this point who WWE sees, because we've seen rumors for both men now. We've seen Seth kind of been rumored to be the guy to hold this, and now there's been some recent rumors about it being AJ Styles. And if it was going to be Seth the whole time, you could have essentially put Seth in there with anybody. If the plan was for Seth to win all this time, then does his opponent really matter? So maybe they wanted to give him an opponent that they know they would get the best match with, which could be AJ Styles. Maybe even more so with Edge. AJ and Rollins can have a great match. They've feuded before. And now you're guaranteed to have a solid match at the top. And maybe Edge isn't even planned for Saudi Arabia. He might not even be going to Night of Champions. So, you know, that just makes even more sense for AJ. We'll have to see. But right now, I'm still leaning towards Seth, even though I think an argument can be made for both. So let's cruise back over here to the chat before we wrap things up. I would appreciate some thumbs up and likes if you don't mind. I want to say hi to my friend, Kevin, K-Dogs Kennel. What's up, my kayfabe brother? Much love, Greg, working the night shift. Just want to pop in and give you nothing but love and support. Appreciate that, man. Good luck on your night shift. I hope that new location, by the way, is working out for you. I know you switched a while back. I hope all is well in Kevin's world. Thanks, K-Dogs Kennel. Appreciate you being here. Stone Cold 10X, thank you for the 5. Speaking of Roman, I actually think Solo will turn on him first as a way to protect the Usos. Yeah, you would think. Now, they're all legit brothers, right? Solo is Jay and Jimmy's brother, right? I have that right? So Solo has been great about, you know, he doesn't really let on where, what he's thinking. He's stone-faced the whole time. A couple times he's popped and had to, during the Sammy stuff, he's snickered a little bit, but Solo does a great job of, appearing to be obedient, but who knows what's really going on in his head because you can't tell anything from his face. So if it turns out all this time he's been very uncomfortable with Roman's treating of his brothers, you just can't tell it on his face, and he's the one to spike Roman. I'd be into that too, because at some point, in order for Roman to lose the titles, you think that might have to coincide with the entire bloodline crumbling, right? So if you have Solo turn around the same time the Usos do, that would work. And if they do lose here, that's why I think it's important for the Usos to play a role at Night of Champions, because if it's just a straight up match and Solo loses the match, then Roman's going to be pissed at him. Then Roman's going to be mad at his whole bloodline. So I feel like if the Usos interfere and screw up, then his anger can be focused on them, and Solo still remains, Roman's top enforcer. But yeah, the bloodline crumbling, you feel like that will be the end result. It's just a matter of when they're going to do it, and if it's going to happen during the course of a match on a pay-per-view or in a segment in the ring on SmackDown. You just don't know. And if it can tie into Roman actually losing the title, and I think that should come sometime after Money in the Bank. Mark, thank you for $2 more. Appreciate that, my friend. Julia Hart is a future women's champion. I hope so. I like Julia. Luckily for Julia, she's super young. I think she's 8. So she has her whole life ahead of her, extremely young, and she has so much time. So she's already performing at a pretty good level for someone her age. It's very impressive. We love Julia. We wish her the best. And future women's champion. No disagreement from Greg. But you got to keep in mind, though, as MH Nova is reminding you as well, she is very young. So no rush getting her ready. Don't hot shot it. Wait till she's ready. Crown her up. Give her the achievement. It'll be good. Just reading through some of these comments here. Thank you, MH Nova. Even the Clippers left San Diego. The Clippers. Tell me about it, man. I don't understand. I really wish we would have been able to get a football stadium built downtown, really close to Petco, for the Chargers. I thought it would have been great. Great city here, right on the beach. It's unbelievable place to live and visit. And why we don't have a better sports market, I don't know. I think it's because a lot of people here are just too chill and laid back. A lot of people just don't go to that stuff, but I do. And I'd like to go, and I want the Chargers back, man. I'm just kidding. It is a great sports city, man. People still fly Chargers shit around. Everybody supports the team. The Padres are selling out Petco now, and we're here. Sports fans are here. Just bring it. But the AEW show after Double or Nothing is going to be interesting, because right now it's only about half the building looks to be for sale with tickets, and the other half is just tarped off. So we will see. I hope they give me a good show here in San Diego, because I'm going to be real close to the ring. I think that's going to do it for me for this evening. Again, I want to remind you about tomorrow. Yeah, Rodrigo, I'm aware Los Angeles is a bigger place. Part of the reason we don't have a lot of that here is because Los Angeles is so close, and there's a lot of teams up there. So you don't really maybe need them here. But yes, you do, because San Diego is big and it's awesome. I'm aware of that, Rodrigo. Anyway, I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Happy Mother's Day if any mothers are in the chats there. And if any of you have moms that are still with us, happy Mother's Day to them, and Mother's Day to all the mothers that are no longer with us. And my heart goes out to everybody celebrating or dealing with Mother's Day tomorrow who don't have moms. But I'm going to be in a restaurant business, and I'm going to be dealing with a million moms, and it's going to be a pain in the ass. So don't forget about tomorrow's In Your House doubleheader. Tomorrow, noon Eastern, my In Your House #1 review will drop on the channel. It's about 45 minutes long. I'll finish up the editing tonight and get that up to YouTube. You will have that in the morning. And then tomorrow night, 1 hour later than normal, at 6 Pacific, 9 Eastern, we're going to do a watch along of WWE In Your House #2, Sid Diesel Lumberjack match with my baby tonight performance, Shawn Michaels versus Jeff Jarrett for the Intercontinental title. A lot of fun on that short show. That's what we're going to be doing tomorrow. So I'm looking forward to that. You guys have a great rest of your day. Thanks for being here, and I will catch you tomorrow night for In Your